Can I talk to a venture capitalist without violating Regulation FD? Today on Zippy Point.
Quick Zips by Zippy Point.
Quick and dirty. I'm Brock Romanek. I'm a big fan of yous. So venture capitalists, known as VCs, often have access to material non-public information from their portfolio companies because they have large ownership stakes as well as seats on the board. These portfolio companies are privately held companies, not public companies. The good news is that Reg FD doesn't apply to companies that are private or about to go public. They're not public yet, so that VCs face these issues only if they remain on the board after the company goes public. So let's look at VCs who stay invested in a company after it goes public in two ways. One where the VC still sits on the board, the other where the VC is just a shareholder, but not a director too. For those VCs still sitting on the board, they are now considered senior officials under Rule 101C of FD. If the company is publicly traded now, senior officials are required to comply with Reg FD. Of course, as a director, they're allowed to freely obtain material non-public information because that's part of their job, but they're bound by the restrictions of FD. So sharing that material non-public information wouldn't just be an insider trading violation, potentially criminal liability perhaps. It would also be an FD violation, which is just a civil penalty. Then these VCs have this dilemma to boot. They're expected to report confidential information back to their venture capital firm, back to their VC firm where they work. But yet they also have this fiduciary duty of loyalty to the company where they sit on the board. This is a tightrope for them to walk. There's real potential for conflicts of interest. They have to be aware of which hat that they're wearing and follow processes to deal with the conflicts, a Chinese wall. VC firms have policies that erect informational barriers, these Chinese walls, within the firm to handle this. VC appointed directors are subject to the same fiduciary duty obligations as any of the other directors that sit on the public company's board, and the VC firms know this. The VC firm expects the members of the firm to comply with their fiduciary duties to the portfolio company, even if doing so would conflict with fiduciary duties to the VC firm. They expect the director to recuse themselves from discussions at board meetings where appropriate, and that sort of thing. So now let's talk about VCs if they're just major shareholders, but they don't sit on the board. This is always a problem for a VC. It's a rough transition from the private world where they sit on the board of a private company where they're used to running the place to the public company world where it's inevitable that they're going to have a much more arm's length relationship with management. Under FD, you can still selectively share material non-public information to VCs in their capacity as shareholders, so long as they agree to keep it confidential. But that means that they're not allowed to trade in your stock until you publicly disclose that information that they want to trade on. This really handcuffs them, and the risk of them trading anyway or leaking that information is pretty high. It's human nature. So it's just better to continuously remind them that the old days of being a private company no longer exist, no longer apply, and they need to get used to not being fed material non-public information. I should note that even though most VCs are exempt from registering as an investment company and communications to them are not covered by Reg FD in that capacity as an investment company, communications to them are covered by FD as holders of the securities because a company shouldn't believe that a VC would not trade on the basis of that information. After all, that's what a VC does for a living, make investments. So learn more about common Reg FD situations that you might find yourself in by going to zippypoint.com or search YouTube with the hashtags of #RegFD, #ZippyPoint, and let me know what you think.